Welcome to Center Light, all you sexy human creatures. Keith Anthony Blanchard here, also known as Yanava I Am. It's good to see you. Center of Light Foundation Radio. I've done it for so many years. Lots, hundreds, thousands. I love every one of them. I learn through every one of them. I learn from every one of you. I had to breathe. So I'm pacing myself. I'm doing 2 at most a month. It makes me look forward to it. It's like, hearing your favorite song, Sweet Home Alabama, so much. You just don't want to hear it anymore, no matter how fantastic the song really is in context. I'm tired of pour some sugar on me. All right, kind of thing. Welcome to Center of Light. Always good to see you, everyone. Center of Light Foundation is graduating. Who is the Center of Light Foundation? It's you. You are the Center of Light Foundation. It's all of us. As we sit in the we sit on the throne of your highest version of yourself, and you feel really good about it. So good about it, you keep turning within yourself to greater expressions, and you expand into all this deliciousness you never thought you could taste like. That's the kind of magic I am shooting for every day, every possible way. Center of Light is growing. Thanks. I'm going to say Dr. Katie Camara. Everyone keep Dr. Katie. All you have to do is say KK. Dr. KK. She went through a surgery recently. She was my partner for the foundation. And she's going to be fine, but having the procedure that was done, it's a little wonky in her body to be her right now until she gets everything balanced, settled in. Center of Light Foundation fundraiser right there. It's doing well. People are chiming in. People are wanting greater expressions of that very self I just mentioned a little bit ago. What does a miracle look like? Well, go look in the mirror. It's a miracle. You look in the mirror to call back to yourself. It's a miracle. That's what you're worth. Let me tell you about my guest tonight on Center of Light Radio, Stephani Grace. She comes from a long line of John Hunt publishing authors, let me tell you. She's from the old book division. We're going to be speaking about her brand new book. I don't know how many books she has. I don't like learning too much about the guests. I don't read their books, not because they're not deserving of it. I like it being organic. I like the fresh hit, if you will. We're going to be speaking about her book, Creating Real Happiness, A to Z. She says, you are worthy of love and acceptance. Or maybe this is someone who gave a review. Either way, it's applicable. I did a presentation 2 nights ago, and the main topic was what you feel you deserve is the level of a covenant you can ever have with God. I don't feel deserving. Oh my God, I'm going to go to hell if I die. And all these kinds of ways we can spin and fragment this erroneous, false idea. What you feel you deserve deepens the covenant that you have with God, really yourself. You will never know God until you know yourself. How can you reach the majesty if we don't understand what the heck this finite little puny self is, right? So, what you feel you deserve, you are worthy of love and acceptance. Creating Real Happiness, A to Z, is a wonderful daily guide to help you be in the moment and find peace in the here and now. Right here, right now. Where are you going? You're actually walking a linear timeline forward only to come back to right now. Stephani's story is especially poignant, and her experience of coming home to herself is an incredible inspiration for everyone questioning if they have what it takes to heal. I just read that, and I'm going to actually change it a little bit by putting 3 underlines, 3 exclamation points, italics, bold print. If you have what it takes to heal. This is about her book. This is about Stephani. Stephani Grace is an author, motivational speaker, therapist, and mindfulness expert. She has used self-exploration and mindfulness to overcome any adversities, including addiction and remnants of a traumatic upbringing. We all have some junkage and a trunkage. To live a more vital, inspired, and fulfilling life. Through her personal inner work, and with hundreds of her clients, Stephani knows that everyone can experience the freedom of living life as their true self, free from judgment and past conditioning, to feel joy and happiness every day. She has made it her life's mission, as many of us do. When you had enough, you had enough. Life's mission to create helpful, accessible, and easily apply tools to make Wholehearted living possible for all people everywhere. There's a little more, but I think we get the beautiful package that's about to unfold. Everyone, her book is now available on Amazon as well as johnhuntpublishing.com. Type in the search bar. Stephani, no E on the end, Grace. And find your place all over her website. Let her know you exist. Make a big stink. Everyone, welcome to Center of Light, Stephani Grace.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me.
How is you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. How many books do you have?
I just have this one. This is my very first book.
How long did it take?
Writing the book didn't actually take that long. I kind of worked on it a little bit over a year or two, and but the part that's the trickiest is finding a publisher, and then once you get a publisher, is that process takes a year. So it's been about 3 years since I wrote this book.
Why a book? You using the bathroom one day, you're cooking food or driving in your car, and I think I'm going to write a book. Did this happen for you? I'm assuming, like me and many of we come into this state of self-realization, at least our damnedest to walk the bravery to walk such a path, is because of things were just really wonky and not good for you. Would that be a true statement?
That is true. Yeah, that is a true statement for me as well. Yeah. I had a really challenging upbringing and faced a lot of difficulty and adversity, which brought me to my own path of spirituality and self-growth. And that led me to wanting to be a counselor, to bring what I learned to others. And then I reached a point where I felt like I wanted to reach more people. I felt like I wanted to do more than just one-on-one. And so I decided to write a book. And so my book, Creating Real Happiness A to Z, is basically all the things that have worked for me in my own life, and then the things that I've been able to help others with in their lives. I put it all into a nice little approachable book to hopefully reach more people and inspire others.
Would this be a true statement at the beginning? How long ago did this change in direction start? How long ago was that for you? 15 years, 12 years? Something?
You mean in terms of me doing my own spiritual work?
Becoming conscious.
Becoming conscious started.
Yeah, changing the path.
Yeah, well, interestingly enough, I have always been this voracious seeker. As early as I can remember, I've been interested in spirituality and religion, Buddhism. And I would say I started on that path, right? In my late 20s late teens, early 20s, I started learning about Buddhism and meditation and on that path. But really, I would say, major shift happened around probably 12 years ago. I think my divorce was like a moment of life altering time for me,
Would you agree that at the beginning, when the thoughts of, hey, I'm interested in writing a book, and then they deepened a little bit to, you are going to write a book. Point is, on the backside of that, from where we are now, in hindsight, when you wanted to write that book, because, there's some ego involved. I want to be an author. It sounds cool. I like the idea of all of it. But would you say now, in hindsight, it's a call? You can see it as a calling?
Oh, I very much did. I can tell you the exact moment. I was actually taking a bath, in the bath, and just had a direct knowing of that was how I got the idea to do it A to Z. I all of a sudden just had this idea of oh, I should write a book and do it A to Z to make it easy for people. And just it just came to me. And I've always sort of felt I just kind of knew that it was going to happen, because I felt like it came to me in sort of a divine way. And I just knew that it for some reason is meant to go out there in the world.
Well, let's dive right into that and make a sandwich. Creating Happiness A to Z sandwich. Everyone knows oodles of people that ask the most to them at that time in their life. It's a very important question, which is, how do I find the love of my life? Where's my soulmate? I'm just starting my spiritual walk, so I have a twin flame or a soulmate? That's a very, very popular question in the movement when it comes to any level of spirituality or psychism. So, how do you find that particular person?
Yeah, good question. I love this question because so many people are searching for their soulmate or the love of their life. And so I think what is really important, first of all, is if this is something that you are seeking, are really looking for, the first thing is like be really clear on what it is that looks like. Like, what does your ideal person look like, right? And so then, if this fantastic, wonderful human comes knocking at your door, how do you feel about it? Do you feel ready for them? Do you feel excited? Are you like, okay, I'm ready for you. Come on in. Or do you feel like, ooh, I don't know if that person would want me. I don't know if I would be worthy of that person. So these are a couple of good things to explore. If you're not finding them, and you're not, you don't feel that you are ready, then I'm guessing it means that you need to first be your ideal partner. You need to first feel that way about yourself. And so in order to find your ideal partner, it's important that we spend time alone. And sometimes we really don't want to do that, but it's the most important time that we have is when we are alone without a partner. It allows us to create that important relationship with ourselves, to be our own best friend, to be our ideal partner. And so the thing is you are going to get lonely, and that's okay. And you are going to have all these different experiences when you're on your own, and that's when you learn how to show up for yourself in the way that you most need, and you learn to accept that whatever you're experiencing is okay.
So, are you saying basically it's about making oneself available? Because until then, nothing happens. It can approach you, but you're not going to allow yourself to engage because simply you're not available. Would that be a parallel?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. It's like you're not, if you don't believe you're worthy of who you desire, then you're not worthy. You're not, I mean, you're not going to
And you're
attract
not
them.
ready as well. You're just
Right.
simply not ready.
You're not ready.
A perfect story, very long story short, an old girlfriend of mine called me to complain about her recent boyfriends then after we had been split up for years because she knew the work I was doing. Hey, Keith, I need some thoughts. Absolutely. These guys, they da 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 da, right? And the guy she really wants and describes to me, there's a stereotypical picture. So one night I'm playing music and she's at the bar and I'm watching her. Guy number one, she's making all kind of goo goo eyes and flirting and batting the eyelashes, and that's the guy she's complaining about, right? And the guy over here is so desperately trying to get her attention to buy a drink, and she's not interested in him. The guy, the blue collar, I mean, the collared shirt, and just whatever. It, the opportunity was there, left or right, and she couldn't see it. She wasn't
Yeah.
available.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's what happens to us, right? It's like once we're open to something, it's funny how we'll see the signs everywhere. We could have been walking past the sign for something that we need, like, I don't know, a car or whatever. All of a sudden it's like, oh, once we're open, we see them everywhere. We see it, we see the opportunities come to us. Yeah.
We are not the ego. We discovering our beautiful sacred self.
Yeah. Yeah. We
Well,
are.
this was in your notes for me. That would be a great topic, and I love that. You are not your ego. Discovering your true self.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, what I believe is that we are all divine. I believe that we are born knowing this, and we are born knowing that we are nothing but love, that we are worthy of all we desire. And what happens is that we begin to get conditioning from our families and the world about who we need to be in the world in order to be accepted and loved. And we begin to identify with that conditioning as our truth. And we usually don't begin to understand that we are not our conditioning until we've had enough of suffering or enough of being unhappy. And then we're like, maybe there's a different way, and maybe we go to a counselor or we start reading whatever. But the important piece for us to understand is that that truth of who we are, that divine self, has never gone away, is always our truth. And so it's like coming home to that, coming home and understanding that that conditioning we've received that develops our ego isn't our truth. And how could something that is so mean and, often criticizing us be our truth? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I'm looking in a mirror. No, I am looking in a mirror. Is there one thing that we can do that could change our life? I mean, I understand there are no shortcuts. And even if there's a shortcut that gives me at least immediate gratification, I'm going to take that biscuit. I'm going to get it, right?
Yeah.
Is there any particular one thing that you would support, suggest, offer that we can do to exponentiate our growth that will change our life in such a way? Because everything changes our lives. Even the horrible shit changes our lives. It just takes a long gradation of time. But changing our life, meaning like, wow, I've been doing this for a month or kind of thing, and I just had this amazing kaboom. What would
Yeah,
that be?
definitely. I mean, one thing I always tell people, if you're only going to listen to one thing I say, this is what I recommend, and I'll tell you two things. So but the first thing I would recommend is like do gratitude practice. You're going to get if you do gratitude practice, you get the most bang for your buck. And the reason why I say that, and if you don't like the word gratitude, you can use what's working. But beginning to focus on what's working in your life, what you're grateful for, just that alone starts to move us more toward self-love, more toward being open to things working for us. It makes us feel like, oh, the universe is on my side. Things can work out for me. And oh, I do actually have things working for me. And the interesting thing is, and I always say, if you want to experiment with it, do a science experiment and try doing gratitude practice for a month. When we focus on what we're grateful for, it creates more of that because what we focus on is what becomes our reality. So that's the one I would say, if you're only willing to do one thing, do that. Pair it with something you're already doing to make it easy to incorporate it into your life. Like I do it every day when I walk my dog, or if I'm ever feeling bad, I'm like, okay, I'm going to focus on what I'm grateful for, and it helps shift me out of that negative space I was in. And so that's one thing I would say, for sure.
That brings me to, it's kind of like you set up something. I was going to ask a question, but it brings me to the fact that is happiness a choice? Because, there's an old saying that there is no way to happiness. Happiness is the way. If it is a choice, how can one find the right tool to help allow that choice to seep into their experience so they can choose that choice? So is happiness a choice? Is it as simple as a choice? I'm just going to choose to be happy today.
I know it seems sort of silly, doesn't it? But I do believe that happiness is very much a choice. I think that when we understand that we have control over our internal circumstances, then we can understand that it actually is a choice. We don't have control over external. I will agree with anyone who says that, but we do always have a choice over how we react to things. So acceptance is our key to freedom. So the more we are able to learn to tolerate the things that are out of our control, or things that go in a way that we don't like, the more we're willing to accept that and learn how to self-soothe and be okay, we can learn to be happy regardless of what's happening externally.
So it's our beliefs, our ideas, what we think is real, unreal, possible, impossible, holy, blasphemous. It's our beliefs that are creating our reality.
Yes, I think that's true. I think our beliefs create our reality. So if we're focusing on,
I agree.
yeah, it's a good one, right? If we're focusing on what isn't working or what's going wrong, then we're going to see a whole lot of that, and it's going to feel bad and we're going to not feel good. Yeah. But if we're focusing on what's working and what feels good and what we want to create, that is still putting us in a space where we feel good, we feel happy.
And I think some of that probably, no, let me rephrase that. All of that comes from forgiving yourself, healing that inner child, the part of us that we thought, and at the time, it's important that we have seen it as I'm wounded. There's a time for tenderness and care and support and nurturing and putting tincture on the and some ointment on the boo boo. But for me, the way I healed my inner child was I screamed even louder than I did as a kid, as loud as I was able to scream. But through expression, I don't give a shit. I care, but I don't give a shit. I care about each and every one. I care about everything that happens. That's the way I express myself and say, I just don't give a shit. I don't care about frivolous, nonsensical things. And everybody has their healing way. I had many, we all have experiences, but for mine, lost a sister. We all lose loved ones, be it in relationship or earthly. But my way was being even more rambunctious, to expressing, to realize that it is okay, that I play as hard as I want to play. And then when I reached that level finally, it broke. And I started my descent back into the seat instead of being so active and try to get and acquire something. How was that for you, dear?
In terms of my healing journey.
Trauma, the inner child.
Yeah, very similar. I think that it really was about recognizing that I had a wounded inner child, and that I needed to be able to come and show up for myself as my parent, as my best friend. And no matter what I'm feeling, right? It's understanding that it's okay. But the tricky thing is when we're taught that our needs or our feelings are unacceptable, or people don't have, the time for them, we start doing that to ourselves as well. So it's like when those wounded parts of us show up, we feel ashamed of them, or we feel like we don't like it when they show up, and so we want to put them away. But the key is to be able to accept all parts of us, the parts of us that show up that are needy, or just bring us shame. Those parts deserve our love and attention just as much as the parts of us that we feel good about showing to the world, the parts that we're proud of. But it's like once we can see that those wounded parts that show up deserve acceptance, and then we can begin to attend to them and not feel bad when we need to advocate for ourselves with another person, like in a relationship, like with a partner or something. It's like, we're like, no, it's okay that this is a need of mine, that I had this experience as a child or growing up, and it's made this a trigger for me. And so I need to take care of myself in this way. And once we're able to do that, it helps us heal.
How good are you with triggers? How good are you with triggers? I'm really good at it. Years ago, I was a quick draw. Now it's like, of course, something may catch you off guard. It's like, whoa, what was that? I don't necessarily like it, and I don't have to like it. I'm good.
Exactly.
How are you with triggers? Same way?
You got it. That's exactly. I mean, it's painful, isn't it? I mean, whenever, of course, we don't like it when we get triggered, because something's pushing on something that still needs a little bit of healing, and it's always painful. But it's like once we can recognize what's happening, then, like you said, we can sit with it, breathe, feel the pain, and understand what caused it and what we need, and then we don't have to put it on other people.
But that initial sting, that initial punch in the sternum, that's the point. We put it on the other person immediately, as soon as it happens. That's why it's called triggered. You triggered me. Because without the other you, there would be no trigger. You'd just be sitting by yourself on the park bench feeding pigeons.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's about accepting oneself, just falling into acceptance, forgiving, and actually taking it beyond. Get beyond the level that I forgive my wounded child. That's over. I don't even dwell that there was a forgiving process. That's sort of like a goal. It's like when we get to a future vantage point that is so powerful that we might remember the past, but the tone and the meaning of it just simply completely changes into something else. And I think it's about accepting yourself, like you said on this bullet list, which and everything you had on this bullet list, these topics we're touching on, they're so chronologically in order. In other words, it's not just a question and a question. They're actually creating this trickle, this trail, this you did your homework kind of thing. At least I'm recognizing that.
I didn't even notice that I did that.
Yeah, I mean, everything is, I'm using your dialogue here, your suggestions to weave things as a river. And you definitely were in that boat. So tell me about acceptance. How do we go about accepting ourselves and then in turn others?
Yeah. Yeah. Acceptance is, there's a couple things. I mean, there's, when we're talking about accepting ourself, I think it is first about developing that relationship with ourself. It's about beginning to come to know our true self, beginning to understand that we are not our conditioning. And I think we can do that best is beginning to meditate, spend time with our true self, spend time getting to know our soul aside from our mind, spend time in your body so that you can understand the difference between your true self and your conditioning. And then thinking about acceptance, one of my favorite things to say is, what would it be like to be me with without judgment? So you can just be out here being a human, making, choices. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad, and it without it being right or wrong or good or bad. That is real, true acceptance. That's real love. And once we can do that for ourselves, it's like we're just allowed to live. And the only person who ever makes it, you know, okay or not okay or good or is our own mind. So once we can get around that, then we can do that for others. And then when we're able to accept and do that for others, it's just so, I mean, life is so wonderful.
There's no friction, there's no resistance. It gets really easy. We stop paddling against the current. And we don't even have to turn the raft. The current simply turns us, and down with the river we go. But when
Yeah.
we try to face the current, like stones, our lives become rapids. And we're trying to get to the top of the river like salmon, only to be eaten by bear. And right, there's
Yeah.
nothing we want upstream, nothing at all. And this leads me into your next segue. I'm serious. You might could use these questions as a whatever for your promo. It's fantastic. It's something I have always done. When something bothers me, that's in the form of a fear, an active fear, something that's a thorn in my mind, in my side. It's just aggravating. I'm gonna go do it. As a kid, 10 years old, public swimming pool, all my friends are diving off the diving board, and I'm holding on to the side, scared to death. And I'm thinking to myself, how can they be possibly having such a blast with something that I am so freaked out about? So finally I said, screw that. On any particular, whatever the chosen day was. Got up the ladder, and now there's a line of kids behind me ready to go. So I cannot turn around. So my heart's palpitating, right? And so I run to the edge of the board and I'm freaking. I stop and they're screaming at me, "Come on, Keith, man, go!" I gotta go. And when I jumped off the diving board, things slowed down. And when I hit the water, I realized I didn't die. It didn't hurt,
Yeah.
and the whole illusion just dissipated. And so now I'm pushing people out the way so I can get ahead of them and cut in line just to go do it. So face your fear, free your soul. I felt that. And from that day, all those years ago, that's sort of been a walk for me. If something bothers me, I'm going to go do it and prove to myself it's just not what it seems. How do we, how do you suggest, are there words to suggest to others how to face their fear? We'll just go do it. Well, yeah, but that's easy for you to say, right? How do you suggest we do that, dear?
Yeah, well, one of the things I like to think is like we really truly know the difference between the different kinds of fears, right? We know if we truly are in danger or if it's maybe more that we're pushing up right on the edge of growth. And so when we know that it's about, going outside our comfort zone, then what I think is that we can start to think of fear as our friend. We can start to get a little bit excited when we feel fearful because we know it means we're leveling up. It means we're growing. We're right on our comfort zone. And the thing to think about is that we're in good company when we're in fear because nobody does anything fantastic or wonderful in this world without fear. Nobody. And so you can know that fear is normal. It's something that you can teach yourself to be okay, to be our best selves, to get to become our highest best selves, we do have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And it's like, we can, even though we have fear, we can tell ourselves it's normal. Everyone feels this way when they're up on their comfort zone, and we can take small steps in spite of our fear. We can do it. And the biggest thing is finding what's the smallest step I can take in this direction, and still make a movement. We can take really small steps. Yeah.
When I love what you said, just love it. When we, you're gonna have, there's no way. You're going to have to become uncomfortable. You can choose that now and be ahead of the game, or it's going to choose you and you will be one step behind as it leads you versus you leading it.
Yeah.
You have to get uncomfortable.
Yep.
But what happens, as Stephanie said, I would like to echo, is that when you move into the fear, it's going to feel wonky. Oh, this feels so sticky and icky. And then you realize about 30 seconds later, you're going, wait a minute. This is not so bad. This is what I thought it was. Not only are you really getting comfortable and being uncomfortable, those two images shatter. And now you're closer to the real aspect of your soul because you're no longer bound by the duality of a this or a that.
Yeah.
This is the work that Stephanie has been describing, and many teachers today are saying. They're not just telling you that because it's something they read. Somewhere along this teacher lineage line, people had to experience these levels of reality. And myself, many of you, and people that I bring into this forum are doing just that. And when we begin to connect the 100 monkeys, we all got a monkey in the head. So when the collective monkey gets the ooh, ooh, ah, ah. So it's about self-forgiveness. I talk about often, Stephanie, that these monks in the Himalayas, ascetics, Sikhs, yogis, they go into caves to forgive the people who've wronged them. They go into caves. They stay in there to forgive who they've wronged themselves about. They forgive others who've wronged others and the others who've wronged all the others. In Hawaii, there's a practice called ho'oponopono, which is the art practice of not only forgiving yourself and those who've wronged you and how you've done them, it's forgiving everything. Is this the self-forgiveness you were talking about in your notes?
Oh, it's funny because Ho'oponopono is something that I included in my book. Um, Funny that you mentioned that, but the thing, forgiveness of anybody is about self-love. Because if you think about it, carrying around resentment or pains from things that have been done to you isn't impacting anybody else. It's impacting you. So you freeing yourself from anything that have happened to you, and being able to forgive somebody or yourself is clearing yourself out. It's clearing yourself out so that you don't have that suffering, and so that you can have higher vibration, energy in your body. But there are a couple of things in terms of forgiveness that I think is really helpful. I mean, there are two important steps. In order to be able to forgive someone, you have to know who you are. You have to know that you are lovable and worthy, and accept yourself as you are. Once you're able to do this, then it allows you to not take other people's behavior personally. It allows you to understand that somebody's behavior doesn't get to mean anything about you. But it's hard for us to forgive when we are attached to someone's behavior, when we feel like, well, if this person shows up for me in this way, it means they love me. Or if they do this to me, it means I'm not lovable or they don't love me. And so that's why that piece of learning self-love and acceptance is important, so that we can detach from other people's behavior. Then it's easier for us to be able to understand, and the other thing is once we have that piece in terms of knowing our own worth, then we can utilize a little bit of empathy in terms of like, well, why do they show up that way? Why do they have that behavior? And we can see that, oh, okay, well, they had this sort of childhood, they've had these experiences. This is why they show up that way. And their behaviors based on their conditioning has nothing to do with me and doesn't get to mean anything about me, even though, of course, it often feels personal, right? Yeah.
You and I are so much alike, even as I'm going through this Word document and feeling the interview out so I can play good host, right? I'm just watching this flow between you and I's dialogue, how you stepping out. I can hear your volume of your voice starting to decay. And, we got this shake hands, kind of sort of like a dance going on. But another bullet point I come to is open your heart, live your life. It's like grab your metaphorical spiritual hands and peel this thing open. And the word I use is vulnerability.
Ah,
Passion. You need the fire. You need the God, the creative source. And we need clarity so that when the light moves, there's nothing in the way, nothing gets encumbered, and it projects an erroneous reality. And then you take action with the backbone. But so we have passion, sincerity. I mean it. I'm serious about this thing that I'm interested in. And then humility. Ironically, when we drop, we lift.
yeah.
Creates a vibration, which opens the door to vulnerability. And this is sort of what the passion of Christ is. When he opened up that core and let that light out, not only did he become alive for eternal, he did that for everybody else that was to follow.
Yeah.
So vulnerability, when we open our heart, is when truly we are able to step forward in all of our glory. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Tell me about
sure.
that, sis. Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, what you're saying is true, is that when we are open and vulnerable, yes, it's scary and a little bit dangerous because we can get hurt, but also we get to experience all the great things in life. We get to experience love and passion, and we get to allow ourselves to we get to validate our experiences. If we are closing ourselves off because we've been hurt or we've had, abuse, any of those things to keep ourselves safe, I mean, it makes sense. It's smart to do that. But also, what happens is we shut ourselves off from everything. There's no way to shut yourself off from some things and be open to others. Really, it's like if you're closed, you're missing out on the important stuff, and that's really how we heal. That's how we live our most deepest, passionate lives, is by being open, learning to feel our feelings, whether they're negative or positive. Like you and I were talking about a few moments ago, teaching ourselves that we can be comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the key. It's like any emotion we experience, they're all energy, whether it's positive or negative, and they're all the same. But if we're not feeling them, they get trapped in our body, and that keeps us from living our best life.
You're exactly right. And that is it. That is the key. Be okay with not being okay, and eventually you find yourself more okay than you were before. And so this keeps turning within itself, and you keep relaxing and you keep expanding. That's it. There is no spiritual work to do. There really isn't. It's all bullshit. I get it. It's a methodology, and you follow it, and it has amazing perks as if you just learn the simple art of not giving a shit. Caring, but not just falling into the space of, I don't have to like what's happening in the world. I don't have to like what so-and-so did to someone or did to me. But eventually, this inner dialogue just simply quietens. No matter how spiritually enlightened you are, until you get to the absolution of it all, you will always find that you don't have to like something. But you're not responding to it, you have peace, acceptance. I accept this thing. I don't have to like it. It's God's creation. It ain't mine for me to change. That's the humility.
Yeah.
And so it's the acceptance, the allowance. I allow you to be. It doesn't require me to allow you to be for you to be. That's a bullshit in my head. And so then we get to see the luster in things, the diamond, which is I appreciate. Acceptance, allowance, and appreciation. And this circle, this interwoven divine matrix, like Stephanie is saying, she's saying basically, just fall. Forgive yourself. Love yourself. Stop making things that are not necessarily, never were, important any longer. Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
And these things create anxiety and depression. And the reason they do is because we go unconscious and the monkey wants something, but we don't know that there's a monkey. And so we have to learn. Look, I had anxiety. I would go outside at 3 o'clock in the morning waiting for nuclear bombs to hit my city. Right?
Yeah.
My skin was peeling, my teeth were loose, all these crazy things. And then when that girl of all those years that I was with for 10 years, when she left, that brought me to the dark night of the soul, which we talked about earlier, which is, for many people, it takes pain to shift. She was the catalyst for my shift. Depression, I was in it for 2 years. Wow. Until I woke up one day and made a choice of happiness. I said, fuck this, I'm done. So happiness was a choice for me in that moment. So tell me about your clients and anything you would like to offer myself. I think everybody's still dealing with some sort of anxiety and depression on some levels, because if not, we would truly all be exalted beings. Tell me about your spin and your work around anxiety and depression, please.
Yeah. Well, the easiest thing to think about with anxiety and depression is that if if you're worrying about the future, so your mind is in the future going over worrying about different scenarios, that is anxiety. And our ego, our conditioned self, tries to make us believe that it's somehow useful or helpful to prepare us by going over these things. But really, all it does is cause us suffering and dwelling in the past, going over the things that cannot be changed, that have already happened. That is when we're in depression, is when we're in the past. So when we're in the past, we're depressed. When we're in the future, we're anxious. The only place that we are truly free is in the present moment. And so it's learning how to be present and learning.
Comfortable and being uncomfortable. I
Right.
love it. I love it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It's really about our thoughts, right? So you know that when you're in the future, it's because your thoughts are worrying about something. When you're in the past, it's because your mind is dwelling in the past. But when you're present, you're right there experiencing your life. And so you're free in that moment. And it's hard. I know it's hard to learn how to be present because it requires us, like you were talking about, to train our monkey mind. It requires us to learn how to be in our body, not in our mind, and to learn to, just be present. Like, and a good example is like when we're having a conversation with someone, be there with them and really listen to what they're saying. Be present rather than being in your mind thinking about what you might say next, or maybe you're even thinking about what you're going to have for dinner. But that's one way for people to start, right? Practice being present.
Sometimes, and I totally get that, and sometimes I use the opportunity with others to what helps keep me present with those others is I am still listening. I don't have to look in your eyes or watch your mouth move to be listening. I'll find a piece of jewelry or something, the way they smell, the way they talk, and I'll stay with it. So that keeps me into them and present. And then I begin to follow this river that takes me deeper into that person. And I begin to see themselves and myself begin to change in the moment, have this deeper connection. One thing I would like to ask you in closing, and you can leave us with a final thought and your contact and where to find your book, is what really helped me to understand what anxiety is. We can tell people this is what anxiety is. It's being afraid, the fear of the future and such things like that. But what simplified it for me, so I was able to see the spin of the energy was that we could see anxiety as not only just being afraid. Anxiety is afraid. I'm afraid of being afraid.
Mm.
So it creates this ongoing biofeedback loop. For example, being a musician from all these years, I know that if you take a microphone and you put it close to a speaker, there's a feedback noise, the thing that makes everybody go, whoosh, ah. And so what's happening is the information from the microphone is going into the speaker, out of the speaker into the microphone, and it creates this loop, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's called feedback. Well, with anxiety, what happens is when we are not in the heart space, we're in the fear space. When this energy begins to feed back, like when you go hear a band who doesn't know what they're doing with the sound system, the body becomes biofeedbacked into an anxiety spin, and it is not fun. You're checking
No.
your pulse, you're feeling your heart, you feel stuff moving your body as if it's, there's air under your skin. It's just hell.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than anxiety. I mean, I'm sure there is, but it's like some of the worst suffering ever, right?
Not in that
Anxiety.
moment. There's
Oh
nothing
God.
worse. Maybe a kidney stone. Would you like to leave us with a final thought, dear, and how our beautiful tribe can find more about you and what you do?
I would love to. I mean, the most important thing that I want people to know is just that it doesn't matter how bad your life might feel right now or what your circumstances look like or what they have looked like. I want people to know that it's possible for any human being to find happiness, to learn to love and accept themselves. That is possible for anyone. And I just really want people to know that, and that it really just takes the willingness and also, shifting, being willing to do something different one step at a time. So that's the thing that I want people to know. And come and find me on my website is www.stephanigrace.com, and Stephanie doesn't have an E on the end. It's STEPHANIGRACE. And then my Instagram is the same. That's where I'm most active. And I do a mindful minute every day. So either a post or a video where I'm, helping people to stay on their path and maybe offer them something to inspire them to do something different, to help their lives. And so you can just search for me on Instagram by looking up Stephani Grace. And then my new book, Creating Real Happiness, A to Z, is out now, and you can get it. You can get it anywhere pretty much. So just search for that, and that is my book is a really approachable way for you to begin working on self-love and acceptance. That's what it's about. That's why I wrote that book. It offers all kinds of exercises in there, and hopefully you'll find some that resonate for you that you can add to your daily practice and help start working on, learning to love and accept yourself and become, come back into your true self.
I love that mindful minute. That's just so perfect. How long has your book been out, dear?
It just came out May 1st.
Congrats. You always
Yeah.
have support here.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, without a doubt. Anytime you have a new project or just want to express yourself in some way, contact me. We'll hang out in public.
Yeah,
Everybody
I
have a
would
little
love
mixed
it.
drink or something.
I would love
So you're
to.
welcome here anytime, really.
Yeah, I hope that I get to see and work with you again. I would love to.
Oh,
It's such a
absolutely,
delight.
absolutely. Yeah, and if you
Yeah,
would, give me about 1 minute. I'd like to chat with you in the backside of the green room. Good.
that sounds good. Thank you.
Wonderful. Everyone, Center of Light Foundation Radio. Good to see you, Keith Anthony Blanchard here. I love this thing. You are a Jedi in awakening. You're actually more than that. But we go through the linear process we call life. Enjoy your life, even what's not so enjoyable. Take it to another level. The next level looks like you when you can look in the mirror and say, I love you, and you don't hear the monkey say something back. You're making correct choices, higher choices, choices that lead you to the barometer. Joy is what every being in the universe desires, is the ultimate level of joy. So joy has to be the measurement stick. The more you feel joy in your being, you become a seeing one and a freeing one. Dear Lord, your life turns into infinite possibilities you never thought possible. Keith Anthony Blanchard, the Center of Light Radio. Good to see you. Tomorrow night I am doing a presentation called Center of Light Inclusion. It's about inclusion. Everyone holds a piece. Peace. Peace out. See you soon.